Alright, we're going to go ahead and replace the sensor now. I took the battery out, the battery box out, hooked all these wire harnesses, all the clips. Now I'm going to take these 8mm bolt heads off, take the electrical connector down there, off, and then replace the variable force sensor, the TCC, torque converter clutch sensor, and go from there. Alrighty, I got the pan off. Took the coolant reservoir out so you could get in there. And then I got the pan off, and that's the solenoid right there we're going to replace. So I'll go ahead and replace that right now. Alrighty, got the new sensor in. You can see it there, torque down 50 inch-pounds, wire hooked up. Now we're going to go ahead and clean the pan up. Cleaning the surface up, and I even bought the Mopar RTV. It was only like $8-9. That's the part number down there. The 050108884 Alpha Delta. And then that's the new part in the box. That's the solenoid. Part number 05169313 Alpha Alpha for this vehicle. So go ahead and clean it up, put it back together, torque the bolts down, and it holds torques to 50 inch-pounds for all the bolts. Alright, we got it back together. Everything's put back together. We're going to let it cure overnight for that sealant. This is the old solenoid. That's what it looks like. But we got the new one in there. So let it cure. It'll last a little bit of training fluid. We'll top that off with a special dipstick and go do our drivability test on the highway. Maybe have somebody hold the camera this time. Just wanted to show you the hydraulic flow schematics. So right there's the VFS, or variable force solenoid. That's the torque converter clutch, which is the EMCC, electronically modulated converter clutch. So the black line represents line pressure from the pump. It sits there. Electronically the solenoid's good, but mechanically it's leaking fluid past. There should be no fluid leaking past right here to go to the CC valves to go to the torque converter. That's first gear with EMCC disengaged. This is first gear with EMCC engaged. So line pressure comes through. If you look at that, this opens up the valve mechanically, lets fluid go through to these valves to go to the torque converter. Hence your VFS control, which is your EMCC. That is that right there. And then your CC on and CC on turns it on up there. But that's first gear with EMCC on, so you'd expect fluid flow from here going through there. But when EMCC is off, is your VFS control. CC off, CC on. Should have no flow going through this, but we do have fluid going through this mechanically, not electronically. That's why there's no codes, but mechanically it's going through this and applying pressure to the turbine, the torque converter clutch, and that's why it was killing the engine. So now we're going to check that fluid level, that the transmission's all done and put back together with the solenoid. No leaks, we're good to go. Let it cure it overnight. We did lose a little bit of fluid. I would think a quarter to a half a quart of that, probably only a quarter quart, because it was just the side pan, not the bottom pan. But on these Chryslers, if you come over here and look, where the dipstick would normally go, there's a little cap I'll pull out here. This little cap says, for dealer use only. Right? Stupid. Why is it stupid? Because if you come over here, you have to have a scan tool that reads transmission oil temperature. So we're around 158, 159 degrees. What you use, if you use this chart here, temperature for Fahrenheit, we're like 158, we'll call it 160. So 160 you go up, there's the min, 160 there's the max. So we need to be between 28 and looks like between 43, 28 and 43 millimeters. Well, there's no dipstick. You have to have a special dipstick that you got to buy. Dorman makes one. You don't keep it in there, it's really long. And if you look, I don't know if that'll focus or not, but those
marks are in millimeters. So you stick this in there and then you check the fluid level. And it corresponds to the temperature on the scan tool. So if it's 80 degrees, it would be between 4 and like 19 millimeters. It changes, minimum max. I think it's stupid because they could put a regular dipstick in there, but they're just trying to get people to go back to the dealer, it looks like. But we got everything to check it. When they tell you to check it, it says verify the vehicle is parked on a level surface, remove the dipstick tube cap, engine, parking brake, engage the parking brake. Sorry, not engine, parking brake. Engage the parking brake. Start the engine and let it idle with gear selector in the park position, which it is. Shift the transmission lever through the gears several times with the vehicle stationary, engine idling. Bring the vehicle up to operating temp, which we did, and check the fluid level with the engine idling. Push dipstick into transmission fill tube until it bottoms out against the transmission pan and pull out. Read the level. The dipstick will protrude from the fill tube when installed. Check the fluid temperature using a scan tool. Accurate transmission fluid temperature may only be obtained by using a scan tool. With the transmission lever in reverse or forward gear position. So you got to put it in reverse or forward gear position with the e-brake on. And then it has a line every 10 millimeters, and you go off the chart. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and check this fluid level and then go from there. So now we got the dipstick here. So we're at 161. So we need to be between 28 and 42. 28, actually 28 and 43. So I'm going to shoot for like 40. Because that's your min-max, but I'm going to be on the high side, so 40. So we got it. We went through all the gears. We're in reverse with the e-brake on. So I'm going to stick the dipstick in. Make sure it bottoms out. Hold it for a few seconds. And then pull out. And I'm going to look here with this light. You can see the solid line's at 30. Right, it's a little past 30, but the solid line is what you want to go off of. Yep, so we're at 30, so we need a little bit more fluid. Actually, according to the chart, we don't. According to the chart, if you look at this chart again, we're at 160, and we're at 30. So we're just on the low side. We're just within there, but I want to go a little bit more to bring it up. And like I said, when we're all done, it'll be about 1/4 of a quart. So we'll go from there. So we're still around 156, 160. I want to shoot for like, the minimum is 28 to 43-ish. I want to get for like 40, kind of be on, 7/8 of the way up on the dipstick. So if you look here, we'll go in. Bottom out for a few seconds, and I'm going to pull back out. We'll check it, make sure we got a solid fluid level. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's right at 40. It's right, I don't know if the camera picks it up, but there's 40. It's right there at 40 in the center line. So that's good there. So how much fluid did we use? I used about probably a little bit over 3/4 of a quart, 7/8 of a quart. But we only took out about 1/2 a quart. Why? 1/4 to 1/2, and why was it needed more? Well, if you remember from one of the dealers in part one of the videos, one of the troubleshooting things that they thought they were doing right was pulling fluid out. They said there was too much fluid in there. There wasn't too much fluid. It's just another more evidence that that dealership doesn't know what they're doing yet again. They're troubleshooting, misdiagnosing. Because obviously they don't have the skills to do this kind of stuff. So now what we're going to do is go actually take it for a test drive and make sure everything is good to go and capture that on video. Alrighty, so we're in the car, got a driver now. We're doing the test. We drove it for, I don't know, for about 15 minutes now, did 3 or 4 different stops, and everything's working out fine. We're going to get on the exit here. But just to show you the data, I got pulled up vehicle speed and turbine speed. So we're going to get back on a steady state speed on the interstate here. And then we're going to do a couple of checks, and I'll show you live, or not live, I'll show you on video here that it is fixed and good to go. And then we'll go from there. Alrighty, so we're gonna go around 65 miles an hour, cruise on, steady state speed. So we're in 6th gear, torque converter clutch on, locked up. We got our engine vehicle speed 65 and our turbine speed. So we're gonna drive for like 5-10 minutes and do the checks and go from there. So we're still in 6th gear, driving for a few minutes. We're gonna continue to drive. So if you look at my live data, prove it. We got present gear 6, our target is 6th gear, present gear 6th gear. Overdrive clutch is applied. Overdrive pressure switch is closed. So we are in 6th gear, good to go, and we'll continue to drive. See, our turbine speed just went way up because our TCC unlocked for a little bit. The reason is we're going up a hill. That's why our turbine speed increased, trying to keep the cruise at 65 miles an hour. So now it shows that it's in 5th gear as well. TCC unlocked and we're in 5th gear. So once we get up over this hill, it'll go back and I'll show you that. So we're almost over the hill. 5th gear, it'll shift here in a minute. Went to 6. Turbine speed dropped back down, 1600 RPMs, which is our RPMs of our engine, right? So they're 1-to-1 ratio there. Obviously the output speed, if I pulled up that PID or parameter ID, it would be more because the overdrive is on. What I'm looking for now is the turbine speed. So now we're just going to keep this steady state, and then we'll pull over up here in a little while and go from there. Alright, we're going to go ahead and pull over here. So we're going to watch the vehicle speed, turbine speed. So the vehicle will go to 0 and the turbine will go to 0, and the turbine should not jump up like it did before in the other video part 1. That vibration just the rumble strips. 0, he's keeping it in drive. It never jumped up. Did you feel any surging? No, still 0. Still 0. We're still in drive. Turn that blinker off. We're still in drive. Before we pulled over and left it in drive, even after we pull over, this thing would surge up and down like almost die. It isn't doing nothing. So now what we're going to do, the next test I'm going to show you guys, is the graph test. Graph it and expect the turbine to jump up a little bit, but not like it did before. Alrighty, so now what we're going to do is show you on the graph. We're going to go ahead and pull over again. We've been driving for another 5-7 minutes. Go ahead and pull over. Watch the graph. Blue is vehicle speed 0 to 90. Green is turbine speed 0 to 3000. It's going to jump up a little bit because when you stop, the turbine is still spinning, but it's not holding as much pressure. So there, jump, and then a little bit there, a little bit there, but not like it did before. And it stays at 0 the whole entire time. So if you pause this and back up a couple frames, you know, 1 sec. Get up here. So the blue is the vehicle speed, the green is the turbine speed. But if you look at the vehicle speed, when it approaches, it looks like 9 miles an hour, actually less than that, 8 miles an hour, the turbine's going to jump up a little bit only because the turbine's still spinning. Imagine 2 fans together, one's powered and one's not. It's still going to have, you know, fluid coupling going on there, but it's not pressurizing it because the solenoid's not leaking to have, you know, the clutch in there locked up and solid fluid pressure going through. It's slipping, what it's designed to do. This is significantly better from part 1, which had like 3 or 4 times as much jumps. And obviously we're still in drive and there is no surging whatsoever. So the next part of this video is we're going to show when we pull over the RPMs, and then this will be it for this vehicle. So when we take off, you can see the turbine speed goes way up past the vehicle speed because of the RPMs. which obviously it would until it drops back down, because the turbine's going to spin faster inside of the torque converter. The turbine is part of the torque converter. It's not the torque converter, it's part of it, and that's what we're reading, that speed. So we're going to do one more check here and we'll be good to go. So I check for fault codes. There's no fault codes. So everything, our new sensor wire integrity is all good. Just wanted to prove that on here as well. Alrighty, we're approaching the exit here. 6th gear, TCC fully engaged. Going 70 miles an hour. Turbine speed 1730, which is about our RPMs. So we're going to pull over here. Instead of watching the graph this time in the scan tool, we're going to watch that to prove that there's no surging going on, because in part 1 it showed it in the graph, it showed it in the analog part of the scan tool, and it also showed it on the tachometer there. We've done 5 or 6 stops now, and there's been no issues at all. Alrighty, we're pulling over for the exit, so we're slowing down. We're going to come to a complete stop up here. We'll just watch this scan tool a little bit till we get down to where we can actually, and actually we'll go back and watch the RPMs there. Pop the blinker off. We're going to stop all the way and sit here. Stopping pretty aggressively. Whoop. No surging, that was just me moving my phone, because I almost went through the windshield. No surging. It's not like before. So we are good to go. So now you can watch the vehicle speed and turbine speed. So that's a wrap for this video. It needed that TCC solenoid, torque converter clutch solenoid, or VFS, variable force solenoid, or the EMCC solenoid, electronically modulated converter clutch, whatever you want to call it. That was lead and fluid leak by. It was a $30 part at a dealership for a Mopar one. We got some sealing for it. It was another $8 or $9. We put it in, and obviously that solved the problem, because it was leaking fluid by engaging the turbine and the torque converter and engaging the clutch, because it's pulse width modulated. It wasn't electronically bad, it was mechanically bad. Pretty easy job to do, an hour and a half, 2 hours, if you take your time, if even that. But both local dealers in Mountain Home, yet again, troubleshot it wrong. They're saying it needs a whole new transmission, but it doesn't. I mean, a whole new transmission would fix it, but that's not the entire problem. The problem is that $30 part to get in there. And it's an hour and a half, 2 hours labor, I'm sure. They would charge you for that, but they're not. They want to replace the whole entire transmission when you can just replace the solenoid. So yet again, the dealerships, not dealers, dealerships in Mountain Home, Idaho are continuing to troubleshoot, misdiagnose, and try to screw over the customer because they don't lack, I don't know if there's experience, knowledge, know-how, they're lazy, they don't understand what they're looking at. They have all these tools, they just need to learn their job and learn how to troubleshoot so the customer doesn't get screwed over. So that is it for this vehicle. This one is good to go.